Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time you are tuning in. Welcome to Homesteading and Gardening in the Suburbs. I'm Emma from Misfit Gardening, and today I want to talk a little bit about beginner meal planning for busy homesteaders, because I know how stressful it is trying to get out of the house and get to work on time, let alone trying to juggle kids, after school activities, the garden, chickens, the dogs, family time. I'm like, what's family time? Remodeling the house, a social life, and also trying to find time to cook from scratch every night after you've worked like a 10-hour day, right? You're a superhero for tackling any of that in a given week, let alone in one day. And I know some of you are doing this. Some of you are juggling all of that, and you guys are amazing who are doing that. I don't have kids, so I don't have to deal with that or after school activities, but there's a lot that, we have going on at home. And one of the things that we can do to kind of recoup a little bit of our time back is by doing some meal planning. And it's a really great way to know ahead of time what's for dinner, because it helps take out some of that like mental stress of what do I want to eat? What am I going to do? And it's really difficult to, not go get, fast food or eat out and stuff, especially if you've been working really late and you're coming home and now thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to cook? What am I going to eat? So meal planning, really great way to know ahead of time the answer to that what's for dinner question, but it can also really help to tame your grocery budget as well, because eating out is expensive. And I know with the pandemic and everything that's happened, we're starting to, or we have been cooking a lot more at home. And as things are starting to open up, the temptations there is to, go out and enjoy yourselves a bit more. But as a busy homesteader, meal planning and batch cooking often go hand in hand. And this is definitely something that you are probably going to want to try at some point on your homesteading journey. And I don't know a homesteader who doesn't do batch cooking at some point in the homesteading year, right? And not necessarily just for canning, although, canning beef stew or farmer's soup and a few other bits and pieces is a really great way to have like a really fast meal on hand. But actually batch cooking to enjoy throughout the week is something that we do a lot of here on our homestead. Now, a lot of the tips that I'm going to be sharing with you today are coming from my mum. My mum is a freaking wizard with meal planning, and she has it down for months at a time with a rotating meal plan. And I know that I've talked about my mum's amazing meal planning capabilities before on the podcast. I really wish she could teach other people how to do it, because she really is amazing at doing this. And this is one of the things that she taught me. And this is exactly how I manage things like my time at college and working. And now this kind of tool comes in really handy because I eat a different menu to my family, and I eat a different menu because of my food allergies, and also because I went vegetarian. And with my husband being from Texas, he eats a lot of meat, and was very upset when I told him that I was going vegetarian. But it's all good. It's all good. So you don't need to go to the same kind of crazy lengths that my mum goes to with meal planning, right? She has a meal plan that goes for like 6 months out that she just kind of rotates through for her and my dad. And, you could go to that extreme if you want to, but I really recommend that you try to plan for 2 weeks or maybe 4 weeks to get started. And for success, I really recommend just starting to plan for dinners, okay? Don't worry necessarily about like lunches and breakfasts and trying to plan those in too. Just start small and start with the dinners. And it's going to be the easiest for you to try and work into your budget and your schedule. So let's talk about some simple meal planning tips and how to do it step by step. So step 1, we want to be setting aside some time to plan. Okay, you need to do your planning with a clear mind. Okay, Sunday morning over brunch, that works on this homestead, but it might not work for you, and you need to find some time to sit down and plan. the time that you're going to need to plan is going to depend on how long that you're planning for. If you're planning for 4 to 6 weeks, then you're going to need to take a little bit longer to meal plan than if you're doing for, 2 weeks, for example. I would give yourself at least an hour to start with, okay? Because as you're going to see as we go through these steps, there's going to be a little bit of investigation that you're going to be needing to do and some writing down. So what's step 2? Step 2 is writing down the days of the week on a sheet of paper or making yourself a table on a spreadsheet that you can print with the days of the week and space to write. I just do a simple table, Monday through Sunday, right, along the top as a header, and then underneath I've got space to write down what those meals are going to be, okay? You could write it in a notebook or in a diary. My mum, she has a giant big old paper clip or a bulldog clip, right, of scrap paper that she has, and she's kind of got them in like little note sizes, and she writes out the days of the week. So she just writes them down on this little sheet of paper and then, puts down what's going to be for dinner that night. Do what works for you. I like the spreadsheet that I can print. I also use a computer all the time. So, do what works for you. If you want to do it on the paper, that's totally fine. Okay, this is your meal plan and your schedule. Step 3 is to look at your actual schedule. So mark off the days of the week, on the paper or on the spreadsheet that that you're going to be busy on, okay? Those days where that you are going to need something that's an easy dinner option, okay? So let's say on Wednesday you've got a late meeting at work that's going to run to 6:30 at night. You're not going to be home until after 7, and you still plan on mowing the lawn and planting beans that night too, okay? Mark those days off, right? And mark them any way that you want, okay? But make sure that you mark on those days of the week, the ones that are going to be the busiest, right? My mum underlines the days. I like to use a certain color coding in my spreadsheet. You could use a highlighter or mark an X next to those days, right? Those are the days where you need something fast and easy. Step 4 is to choose your dinners and write them down on the days of the week that you want to have them, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? You're pretty much there on your meal planning. So those days where you've marked that you're busy, those are perfect for something that's fast and easy, okay? There's so many recipes available. I've seen so many really cool 15-minute meals on things like Pinterest and the internet. And this is really good if you're still wanting to cook on those days. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. After a busy day, cooking, even for 15 minutes, is the last thing on my mind. Batch cooking, like something in a slow cooker or a crock pot, is exactly how I manage those busy days, especially midweek, right? How many of you have got to Wednesday and you're like, I can't be bothered to cook. Let's just go get something. Let's go to pizza. Let's get something, right? Every time that we end up eating out, I end up getting really sick, and I really regret it the next day for doing that. So having a meal that's ready to go, like in a slow cooker, because I put it on before I left for work, takes out all of that hassle, right? And this is my tip, right, is to spend some real time searching for recipes and meals that you want to try. Okay, I really love that we can search the internet for recipes of ingredients that you already have on hand too. So that's like a really great way of how meal planning can really help with your budget, because you can start to just look at what you already have in the house, right? Like my husband's got a whole turkey in the freezer still, right? He could take a look at some different recipes to use that turkey up. I've got so many cans of chickpeas and dried chickpeas in the pantry. I could look at, recipes with chickpeas and then see what I can use up that I already have that I don't need to buy with the recipes that I'm going to create. So that's a really cool way of how you can make your budget go a little bit more when it comes to cooking. So you want to make sure that you add the time that it takes to prep and cook the meal on your plan, because this is going to help you stick with it and add some flexibility if you're running behind one night. Rather than like grabbing dinner out, you could swap it for another day's meal with a shorter cook and meal prep time, or you could trade it out and swap it for leftovers. So because my mum still does this kind of meal prepping and batch cooking stuff, everything that they don't eat, they portion out and put into the freezer. And then, because it's just the two of them, they'll just kind of pull it out. So if it's something where they've like had kind of a busy day and they really don't fancy cooking, then they'll just pull out that meal from the freezer, defrost it, right? Defrost it in the microwave, reheat it up, and they've got a quick and easy meal that they didn't have to shell out any extra money for. So that's a really great tip to share. And I love doing that. And that's kind of how I operate now. Okay, let's talk about step 5. Step 5 is to write down what you need to buy. So now that you've got your meals planned out on, the days of the week, right? Let's say Monday you're doing, a soup, Tuesday it's a salad, right? Whatever it is, okay? With your meals planned out on that, you want to grab a separate piece of paper or another spreadsheet, and you want to write down the items that you are going to need to create those meals, right? If you're, looking at recipes online, right, you can just kind of look at what the ingredients list are and, copy those onto your paper or onto a spreadsheet. If you've got a bunch of recipe books, you want to be doing kind of the same thing. You want to be writing down what it is that you are needing for those meals. And then what we're going to do is we're going to basically create our grocery list. This is exactly what we're doing. So as you are starting to write down the ingredients, you'll probably see that the same things are coming up. So rather than like writing down the same item multiple times and then trying to collate it all together, I find that if I'm seeing an item that is needed in another meal, I'll put a tally mark next to it so I can get the right number of items that I need. So for example, let's say I'm going to cook eggplant parm one night, I'm going to do lasagna for the family the next night, and then I'm going to do lentil and butter bean stew on the next one. Let's say I need canned tomatoes in each of those recipes. So I'm going to write down canned tomatoes on my grocery list for my meal plan, and I'm going to put 3 tally marks because I need 3 cans of them. So 1 for each recipe. And then that means that I can go to the store and buy only the things that are on the list, and I have the right numbers to be able to create those meals throughout that week. Or better yet, I like to order stuff online for pickup because then I avoid all the temptation to overspend at the grocery store. Step number 6 is to really have success with meal planning, you need to use your ingredients wisely. So you want to be using the fresh veggies and other perishable ingredients at the beginning of the week so that they don't go bad. And if your garden's growing well, see about planning meals to use what's fresh from the garden, maybe a fresh spring salad, for example, over a couple of days. And also, as I mentioned, like that tip with my parents, like anything that isn't used, that's not eaten, for dinner, like maybe you're making extra, right? Maybe the recipe's for 4, but there's only 1 of you, okay? So you've got 1 portion for dinner, and then you've got a whole heap of it left over. And you could divvy that up into containers and pop them in the freezer or pop them in the fridge, and you've got lunch ready made the next day, or you've got leftovers for those days when you just kind of want something that's relatively quick and easy and you don't really need to think about it. So that's my kind of 6 tips to meal planning. So remember, step 1 is to set aside some time to plan. Step 2 is to write those days of the week on that sheet of paper or make yourself a little table to get it ready. 3, look at your schedule, mark off those days in the upcoming weeks that you're planning for that you already know that you're going to be busy. Step 4 is to plan your dinners, mark them down on your plan. Step 5 is to write down what you need to buy. And step 6 is to make sure that your plan is going to be using up those fresh ingredients at the beginning of the week, right? And you don't need to be shopping weekly to make this kind of meal plan happen. You could substitute out certain fresh veggies for frozen veggies, for example, or you could do those kind of freezer meal preps. So where you buy the fresh ingredients and then you spend the time like chopping them up and getting them ready to go and popping them in the freezer. So when you're going to make that meal, you can, take the stuff out the freezer and then cook with it, so it's ready to go. There's so much information available on the internet about different ways that people kind of have created these wonderful hacks for cooking in batches, and really time saving. But my tips to you are to start small with your first meal planning, to build confidence and really tweak your plan so that it fits your scheduling. I do a lot of batch cooking, right? I batch cook soups, vegan chili, vegan pozole. I do Italian pasta, and I portion it all out into small containers for lunches and dinners. I am trying to be good with my eating and actually have some success with weight loss. But I get it, right? When you're really busy and you're home late and you're hungry, you just don't think straight. So I'm finding that portioning things out and putting them, in the freezer makes it a lot easier. So I'm just pulling something out from the freezer that I made from scratch. So I will pull out a meal that's frozen. I will take it to work and I will reheat it at work, or I'll have something cold like a salad, right, that makes it a little easier at lunch. And then at dinner I'll do the same. I'll pull out like a different meal in a different container for my dinner instead, so I don't really need to think about it too much. But I also love things like beans and rice, that I can do in the crock pot before heading out to work, or the good old English favourite of beans on toast. I know my husband still doesn't understand why I do that, but for something that's quick and easy, a toasty or beans on toast are perfect for those kind of quick days when you're not really thinking about stuff. Same with like a baked potato or a jacket potato, as we call it in England, right? There's things that you can kind of trade out and start to get ideas for, those kind of comfort food things that you love that are quick to make, that help you, kind of regain back some of your time to be able to get the things done that you want to and be able to enjoy the time on your homestead. So your taste and schedule are going to be different than mine. So really work to your schedule and to your tastes when coming up with your meal plan. And let me know in the Facebook group what your favorite fast recipes are, or your favorite batch cooking tip. I would love to see them, and I know that other homesteaders listening would love to see those too. Until next time, I hope your garden grows beautifully, and I will see you all next week.